Hi everyone, this is Tom. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm out at the beach again today. I'm in Holcombe, which is a beautiful beach in North Norfolk. The topic of today's video is 6 reasons why doing hard things will make you happy. Hopefully this video is useful. I've been thinking for a long time that, really going back to being a kid, I always was drawn to doing challenging things and doing hard things. And throughout that process, it's had a lot of benefits to me. And interestingly, if I set myself a hard challenge, for example, at the minute I'm doing a video every day for indefinitely. So I'm making a YouTube video every day. And the process of doing the hard thing towards a goal makes me happier. And that's when I feel most alive and most enjoy what I'm doing. And then when I reach the goal, there's almost an anticlimax. And then I'm looking for the next goal because that's what makes me happy. The process of doing hard things towards a goal and setting challenges for myself is what makes me happy. There's lots of reasons why doing hard things will make you happy, but here are 6 of them. First reason is meaning. So if you zoom out far enough, if you look at your life and you zoom back and you look at the community you're in, and you zoom back further to look at the city and then the country and then the world, and then zoom out to the universe and take that across the many, many millenniums of time that the universe is going to exist for, your life is meaningless. And you can look at that in a kind of nihilistic way, a fatalistic way. There's no point in anything, which to an extent is true. But then you can look at it as a kind of, in a relieving way, where it takes some of the pressure off, and then it becomes down to you to create the meaning. So when people ask, what's the meaning of life? I've never heard of good, solid reason for what the reason of life is. You create what's the meaning of life? And you create your own meaning in your life. You create the meaning for your own life. And doing hard things gives you meaning. So if you set yourself a goal, say your goal is, I'm going to pursue this career in medicine or engineering or whatever difficult career path you're pursuing, that pursuit will give you meaning in life. And then if you set yourself a goal of, I'm going to get into good shape and fit and healthy, I'm going to run this marathon or I'm going to lift this weight or whatever it is, that will give you meaning. You're working towards something. Or if you say, I'm going to have this many kids, I'm going to have 3 kids or 4 kids, raise them, the process of raising those kids will give you meaning in your life. So doing these hard things gives you meaning. And so that's a good reason to do hard things. A meaning makes you happy. A meaningless life, where you just go from pleasure to pleasure, you're only existing, maybe you're seeking out pleasures, but you don't have a meaning and you're not challenging yourself in any way, is great, but at some point it will feel a bit empty. And then you won't, that's not a source of happiness for you. I probably should define happiness really. When I'm talking about happiness, I almost feel like contentment, and feeling positive over the entire lifespan that you have, and feeling like life is worth living, as opposed to, there's kind of joy, there's like this temporary feeling of joy or bliss or pleasure, which is a bit different, I think, to true happiness, which is more to do with meaning and fulfillment and feeling purpose and contentment. So reason number 2 is you learn about yourself. What do I mean by this? Well, when you start out in life, you kind of just, your parents will learn about you, but you're not really self-aware. Then you kind of become a teenager and you don't really know who you are or what you're supposed to be doing. And you're kind of working out your place in your social circle, learning from your peers and trying to figure out, what your purpose is. And then as you go on through life, you start to learn what you really like, who you are, and what you want to do with your life. And I think doing hard things helps to accelerate that process of learning about yourself. What do you like doing? If you set yourself a challenge and you really thrive on that, you really learn about it. If you're miserable with it, like for example, when I was a foundation year doctor in the hospitals, I realized this is not for me. It was a hard thing. I went through it. I learned a lot. But one of the lessons was I'm not keen on staying in the hospital my whole life. I'd rather be in general practice. The other thing is you learn where your limits are. So I constantly have this idea of like, I want to do more. I want to be more productive. I want to achieve more. I want to put out more books. I want to put out more videos. I want to put out more podcasts. I want to create more stuff. I want to also exercise. I want to also be around for my family. All these things that I want to do. If you never push yourself to doing things, really set yourself the goal and do the hard things, you don't learn about you don't learn where your limits are, and you don't learn what you're capable of. And you don't learn, your capacity for work and stress and where your limits are. And also, there's many things that you'll learn along the way about yourself that you can't predict ahead of time. So you start this hard journey and suddenly you have this revelation of, oh, it turns out if I lack sleep, I get grumpy, or if I, do this thing happens, and that's a trait of me. Or I really thrive when I'm working with people, or I really thrive when I'm working in this environment, or I really thrive doing this. And the only way to find those things out, or the way to accelerate learning those things, is to do hard stuff and challenge yourself. Reason number 3 is doing hard things makes you get better. So if you're just going through life doing easy stuff and you're staying in your comfort zone and you're never pushing yourself, you won't get better at stuff. So doing hard things is a surefire way to make sure you improve at things and you get better. And by pushing yourself always a little bit beyond what you've previously been capable of, you as a person, your skill set, your body, your brain, everything will adapt and get better. And the way that you learn is to push yourself to do hard things. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're unlikely to make that improvement. And I was talking to my, just talking to my sister-in-law, and we're talking about having kids and she was saying that it's interesting when you have, say, 3 kids, you look back at you when you had 1 kid, and you've got so much more capacity and capability, and you're able to deal with so much more and thrive. And she was saying, imagine if you took this competent level of person and put them with just 1 child, how straightforward and amazing it would be. But the problem is you have to go through those hard things to build those, or you have to go through those hard challenges and do the hard things in order to build that capacity. You can't just take somebody, give them their first child, and then they be as competent as they would be if they'd have done another 5 years of raising children and had multiple children and so on. But if you never take on any challenge, if you never have a child or 3 children, or take on a professional challenge or physical challenge, you never develop those skills. And that brings us on to number 4, which is it prepares you for challenges. And I think this is a really important one, because however you live your life, life will throw challenges at you. Life will find a way to make your life, more tricky in certain ways. But life is actually really quite hard. Getting through life is difficult. You can avoid challenges, but the consequences of avoiding challenges is other problems will come at you. So let's say you avoid exercise and you avoid eating healthy foods, and you take the easy path and eat junk food, you don't exercise. what will happen then is, okay, you don't take on those hard challenges, but then when you get to, say, 50 years old, could be earlier, could be later, you'll be out of shape and unfit, and then start having health problems as a consequence of those things. And then those health problems will be a challenge for you. So you kind of pick your challenges. And if you take on the challenge and you face it head on, it makes you better at stuff, and then it prepares you for future challenges. So I always think when I was a teenager, I grew up in Hackney in London, which at the time was quite rough, and there was a strong gang culture. And a lot of, within the gang culture, a lot of the way that you developed your social standing was to you go out and mug people, carry a knife, beat people up, and so on. And so this is the way people seek status. So at that time, I didn't get involved in gang culture, just to cut a long story short, but I was a kind of victim of gang culture in a sense that I got mugged often, knives pulled on me, beaten up. Like one time I just got dragged off a bus for no reason, beaten up. Got mugged in a tube station where I got punched in the face. Yeah, multiple times where knives were pulled on me. It was really quite rough. And during that time I was miserable. It's not fun to go through that. But as a consequence, I've been through that kind of challenging, hard time and gone through that and got pushed, to just carry on. And now I have a lot of confidence in my streetwise, my ability to look after myself on the street, spot dangers and so on. And everything in life since then has felt easier because I'm not afraid that somebody's going to stab me. So once you go through a difficult time like that, it massively puts the rest of your life in perspective. Like I never fear for my safety anymore because everything is much easier than it was back then. And then having gone through, for example, junior doctor training, and my foundation year training was really tough and very challenging. But since then, everything's felt easier because I went through that hard time and pushed through it. So anytime you go through something difficult, it makes you more competent and more capable and more, you build your self-esteem, and then future challenges feel a lot less difficult. So you're much more able to cope with the challenges that life throws at you. Which brings us on to number 5, confidence. I need to make a whole video all about building your confidence. But I'm convinced that the only way you build your confidence is by doing difficult things and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So we all have this kind of, everybody's, I guess, born with a different level of confidence for different things. So for example, my confidence in my ability to practice medicine now is really quite high because I've done so much learning, so much experience, seen so many patients, read so many books, done so much research that I'm pretty confident I'm going to know most medical things. My confidence in singing is really low, probably lower than almost everybody watching this video. So if you were to get me to sing in public, I would feel very self-conscious about it. So we've all got these different levels. So how do you build that confidence? The only way to build that confidence is to do a thing that makes you uncomfortable, that's hard and challenging and a bit out of your comfort zone. Get through that thing and then look back and say, I did that thing. And there you have evidence that sinks into you to build your confidence. There's no amount of sort of being nice or someone being nice to you, giving you kind words or encouragement or anything that can beat actually doing the hard thing, getting through it. Even if you fail, it still gives you the confidence to try again because you failed and you're still here, you're still alive, nothing too bad happened. So that's how you build your confidence. But I'm going to make a whole video all about confidence. But if there's anything that will build your confidence quickly, it's doing hard things and going slightly above what you're currently capable of. And then the final one is that it makes life easier long term. So if you have a decision to make, what are you going to do in a certain situation? Whether that's what are you going to have for dinner tonight? What career path are you going to do? How are you going to respond to this like angry child? How are you going to approach this problem, whatever it is? Often the hardest path is the one that's going to give you the best results long term. So if one of my kids says, I say, okay, you're going to eat these vegetables for dinner. And the kid is kicking up a fuss and say, no, I want to eat ice cream. I got a choice then. Do I keep battling to make them eat the vegetables? Or do I give in and give them the ice cream? Short term, the ice cream is going to be much easier. Give the ice cream, kid eats the ice cream, happy. But even in the medium term, like an hour later, if my son has ice cream, he turns into a monster, which is not his fault. He's a lovely child, but the ice cream will just create this kind of sugar crash that goes horribly wrong. In the medium term, the ice cream is the wrong choice. And in the long term, he's going to get into the pattern of just expecting ice cream for dinner and not eating vegetables. Whereas if I have that fight and have that battle and find a way to do the hard thing, which is to convince him that vegetables are the way forwards, in the medium term, he feels better. In the short term, it's much harder. It's the hard decision. In the medium term, he feels better because he's not having a sugar crash from the ice cream and he's got more nutrition. And then in the long term, he gets into a habit of eating broccoli. It's just what we do. That's how we live our life. And the same is true of your own diet. You know, if you decide what to have, some days I'll feel like eating a takeaway, but I know in the short term, that'll be the easy thing. I just get the food. It's delicious. I feel good. But then an hour later in the medium term, I'm going to feel terrible. And then in the long term, I'm going to get heavier and sluggish and not feel good. Instead, if I cook fresh food and eat good, healthy food, I'll fit in the short term, it's pain because you have to cook it. It doesn't taste as good. You don't feel as satisfied. But in the medium term or the long term, it's much better. Same is true of, should you study today? Well, you could watch Netflix today and chill and relax and do nothing and have an easy day. In the short term, that's the easy option, but doing the challenging thing, which is to find a way to get that work done, in the medium term, you'll feel good. I did that work, I feel good. And in the long term, you will pass your exams and your life will be much better. And the same is true about almost any problem or decision you have to face. If you choose the hard path, often the hardest path is the worst in the short term, but in the long term, it makes your life much better, much more fulfilled, much happier. And so that's the way to do it. So they're my 6 reasons. I'll summarize them again. It gives you meaning. You learn about yourself. You learn what you're capable of, and you learn where your limits are. You get better. You become more competent. It prepares you for future challenges, so you're more capable. And not just more capable for your own challenges, but for helping other people. You're the person that then other people will benefit from having around. You can help more people if you have become more competent through taking on difficult things. It gives you more confidence because you've proven to yourself again and again, I can take on a hard thing and succeed, and then I can take on a harder thing and succeed at that. And then you do that again and again, and your confidence will skyrocket. However low your confidence is to start with, your confidence will go up if you take on hard things. Even if you fail, you get the confidence of, I tried and failed. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I could try again. It's okay to fail. Even having the confidence to fail is important. And finally, choosing the hard path, choosing the challenges, doing the difficult things makes your life easier long term. I hope that video has been helpful. I'm going to go enjoy this glorious sunshine, spend some more time with my family. I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.